So we are buying 30% of our crude from Russia, and now the Americans have threatened secondary sanctions. What impact do you see on India's oil supply, and what is our backup plan, sir?
Well, first and foremost, madam, I don't feel any pressure in my mind. And I don't think my boss's mind is wired to feel any pressure. And that's where I draw my strength from. But I'd like to have a discussion with you on the hard facts. First and foremost, what are the facts? In February 2022, when the military conflict between Russia and the Ukraine commenced, we were buying, if I remember, 0.2% of our overall crude from the Russian Federation. Today, yes, you are absolutely right, it has gone up considerably. But equally, during this period, India has diversified the sources of supply, and we have gone, I think, from about 27 countries that we used to buy from to about 40 countries now. But more than that, if you go into should you buy from a source 1 or should you buy from a source 2, we have been clear from the day go that we will buy from wherever we have to. Because the Prime Minister's commitment is in the final analysis to his consumer, to the Indian consumer. And I think that policy has stood us in good stead. We are probably one of the few, I would have, if I didn't have this enlightened an audience, I might have said we are the only, but no, we may not be the only. But for a country of our size, for a country of our consumption level, why do I say this? In the last 10, 11 years, 16% of the growth in the energy markets, crude oil, has come from India. Yeah. And if you believe in the analysis of the International Energy Agency, by the way, I saw a statement that someone might be pulling out of there also, but let's leave it at that. They say, a very credible analysis, that in the next 2 decades, 25% of the global growth is going to come from India. Increase in oil demand. Okay, so today Russia is one of the main suppliers. I don't know what the figures were in 2022. Today, I think they produce about 9 million barrels a day. 9 million barrels a day, madam, is roughly 10% of the global production per day and consumption per day. I ask you a hypothetical question. Supposing you take 10% of the consumption off the table. There are 2 possibilities. One, the rest of the world, the whole world, stops consuming or consumes 10% less, which means what? Which means in a country, let's say, I can pick up any country, some people won't get heating in winter, some people won't get air conditioning in summer, some of the transport will stop plying. So 10% consumption reduction is not an easy thing, or something else will happen. You decide that 10% is going off the market, you don't want to reduce consumption, then you start buying more from the remaining 90%. You know what that would do to prices? The prices which were here would skyrocket. We did an analysis, my secretary who's sitting here and some of my other colleagues, that if more and more people were to buy from the other OPEC sources, you know what would have happened? Prices would have gone up minimum to $130, $140 a barrel. So if we were buying from any source that we could, I think we should be applauded. Not
no, that point is very
so no, but let me come to there's another point of this fact. No, I'm not saying that you are saying it, but some people suggest don't buy Russian oil.
If that oil is sanctioned, sir, then what is our plan?
It's not sanctioned, first of all.
Not yet.
No, it's never been sanctioned.
No. If it is.
No, so I'm coming. First of all, let's do the past, then we'll deal with the future. Another very interesting thing happened. It's not as if countries X, Y, and Z buy. I have some statistics here. I want to share those. And you were saying, what are the papers? Because I did some research. I knew you'd ask. Oil products. Turkey, the largest buyer, has purchase 26% of Russia's oil product exports. Turkey, you know which group they belong to. Followed by China, 13%, and Brazil, 12%. Now we come to LNG, natural gas. The EU was the largest buyer. EU is the European Union, purchasing 51% of Russia's LNG exports, followed by China, 21%, and Japan, 18%. Pipeline gas. The EU was the largest buyer, purchasing 37% of Russia's pipeline gas, followed by China, 30%, and Turkey, 27%. Now, if we have to discuss who's buying and who's not buying, I think it's got stuck. No, don't worry. You know, when my colleague, Mr. Jaishankar, when this whole process had started, when he was going for a discussion in the United States, he asked me over the phone casually, what happens if I'm asked about Russian purchases? And I said, friend, you tell them that they buy more in one afternoon. This is early days. They buy more in one afternoon than I buy in a quarter. I think the telephone line must not have been absolutely clear. So he ended up saying, I believe you buy more in one afternoon than I buy in a month. No, I meant in a quarter. Look, the past discussion on buying Russian oil was never subject to a sanction. It was subject to what is called a price cap. And in front of this very distinguished large audience, I have no hesitation in admitting that I'm happy to buy under a price cap. Because then the price cap makes me get the oil cheaper. But by the way, I have a simple system. My OMC is sitting here. They float tenders for import at our, and whoever can supply the particular grade of crude at that point of time, who is the cheapest, they will award the tender to. Now you come to the most important question. What if? I'm not trained to answer hypothetical what if questions, but I will. I'll ask you, I'll answer it all in the fullness of time. Look, what I've seen is some draft legislation where if you do this, then secondary sanctions will come against X, Y, Z. I've also seen a statement coming from the highest in the land, wherever, I shall not take names, but you will understand, saying that I'm giving you, 50 days to sort out this war. Otherwise, I will subject you to something, or we will subject you to a low price cap. Okay? Now, what is the international price of oil today? Should be about 67, 68? 68.5. The price cap was at 60. All right? Where is the price of international oil going to go? I'm looking at my CMD sitting in the front row. We have a happy and vibrant, only minor disagreement. We keep saying, will it be between 60 and 70 or will it be between 55 and 60? Am I right? Or please, I don't want to quote you. I can take my own position. My own view is the price of oil will come down. It will come down, madam, only because there is more oil available in the international market. Today, two major suppliers of crude are sanctioned. My first submission to you is, will those sanctions remain forever? You know whom I'm talking about. Iran next door and Venezuela. Number two, there is more oil coming on the global market from the Western Hemisphere. I mean countries like Brazil, Guyana, Canada, they're not even OPEC plus members. So my response, and I'm sorry I've given you such a long-winded response, is that I'm not worried at all. If something happens, we'll deal with it. If, for instance, major buyers of oil, major suppliers of oil just go off the market, well, there was worry when some of them went off the market earlier, which same thing happened. You either divert. वो हमारे यहाँ कहावत है ना, एक दरवाजा बंद होता है तो दूसरा खुल जाता है. I think we've got a lot of scope in that. There are a lot of new suppliers coming on the market. Our own E&P is going to go up soon. And when will this happen? Let's not draw any inferences. Some statements are made in order to ensure that two disputants settle quickly. Some other statements are made, and you are mentioned, but you are mentioned in other contexts also, then we clarify the situation for the record. So my answer to your what if is, we'll cross the bridge when we come to it, but I'm not unduly worried because I think we have enough oil. Even when there was this discussion, now when you talk about turbulence, so one of the most worrying points was, and I'll be very open, the people told me that the Straits of Hormuz would be closed. Yeah. So I would respond as a good student. I said, for 50 years I've been around, I haven't seen the Straits of Hormuz closed, even though every time they say it would happen. But now is the what if. I asked my colleagues, I said, how much stocks have you got? I think on an average, each one of them had 21 days. Each one of them had 21 days. And one of them, I think, I shouldn't name the company, said we got 25 days. Now, therefore, my response was, even if the Straits of Hormuz is closed, it's not going to remain closed forever. It will remain closed for 3 days, 4 days. But I have a final, one more question, comment to add to this what if, because I think you asked the $1 million question. That is, what is everybody? But we need to have this conversation also to reassure people that it's not as simple. That if one were to happen, the other things will also happen. Look, I buy how much? $20 billion of energy from a particular source. They are global actors. They go and do other things. Am I going to be blamed that I am responsible for some of their actions? No. Equally, I buy energy from Russia. If Russia carries out an operation somewhere else, I'm surely, when I started buying, it was not either because of that or as a consequence of it. It's when energy becomes available. We are buying from Argentina. I think we bought 2 consignments. We are wanting to buy more from Brazil. I think this situation today fundamentally is characterized, madam, by enough supply. I would say there's more supply. I see the price coming down. If some sources for some reason dry up, yes, there will be some uncertainty. But the end of the day, the question is going to be, do we have the navigational resilience, I'm coining a new word, to steer the ship through? I think I'm very confident that we do have it.
That's good to know. And let me add to your Europe point that they've wired more to Moscow in oil and gas since the war began than they've given to Ukraine in aid. So that says something. I think hypocrisy is the name of the game. But
you use the word. I didn't use the word.
That's fine. I use it all the time.
You can. You're a star anchor. I'm only a minister.
First Post now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karjo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 trilhão.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select the language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. First Post.